My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
There's no purpose in teaching anybody who don't really want to learn, who really don't want to get to it. Everybody want to play entrepreneur. They don't want the sacrifice that come with this shit. Truly.
Late nights, early mornings.
You're going to lose friends, lose girlfriends, family going to call you crazy, not going to believe in you, then you make it, and then everybody going to be like, I'm proud of you, let me get some money.
What I've realized that wealthy people understand, and people in general, it's the small concepts that you can apply to get wealthy. You don't gotta be super smart and gotta know all the intricacies of real estate or taxes or e-commerce or whatever, trucking, whatever it is.
It's good if you wanna be rich in that business, but you don't need to know that.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know small, basic concepts. And one of the smallest basic concepts that anybody can understand is get money, buy income. Get money, buy more money.
I woke up feeling wealthy today. My bank account might not agree, but hey, that shit on the way. Me and my niggas laying brick on top of brick till we straight. If you the type that play the victim, you can't come in my space. You know this game ain't for the weak, it's hard to carry this weight. I keep my balance through the ups and downs, I'm never gonna break. You feel the purpose in my spirit when you look in my face. Cause this ain't a second I can waste, I'm putting food on plate.
What's good with it, my wealth builders? It is your guy, David Bellard, one of the founders of the Black Wealth Renaissance, here with my brother, Jalen. What's good, dog?
What's popping with it, my brother? I'm doing great, man.
Amazing, brother. You already know, man. It's Pod Day. Got some great guests, some great games.
The energy's crazy, dog. It's great to see my dude again, man. We had a fun and wild night in Miami.
Boy, we had a time
that night, dog. But I'm great, dog. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing quite well. Like I said, it's Pod Day, bro. I can't never complain on Pod Day. We here to serve the people, give them valuable information, inspiration, and help them elevate in life. That's what we all about here at BWR.
Well, shit, let's get into it, my brother.
So before we get into it, though, y'all already know what we got to ask. Y'all please make sure y'all leave us that 5-star rating and review. And go ahead and share this with a friend. The information that we share on this podcast is meant to impact lives. So help somebody. Each one teach one, pass it on along. And just in case y'all not familiar, we may be having something in Houston. Y'all don't want to miss out. We're going to do a pop-up. We're going to be recording out there on the 26th.
Yes, sir.
So if you want to know, text us the word events. To 337-455-7778. Again, that's events to 337-455-7778. You'll join our list, and you'll be the first to know what we got going on. We in the H.
Yeah, Ariel. And when are we saying that? Can you just drop it in the bottom? You know, appreciate you, my brother. Thank you.
He's the GOAT.
I already know, man.
Hemi Neutron. But no, as Jalen was saying, y'all, this brother's a great brother. Had the pleasure of meeting him whenever we were at the Black Men in Tech Conference.
Shout out to Cam.
Shout out to Cam.
And Cam. Appreciate both of y'all.
Yeah, for sure. Building something real special out there to just getting our people into technology. And this brother is doing some amazing work in the tech space along with the traditional real estate market. He's doing what Adam Newman said he was doing with WeWork, right? Actually mixing technology and real estate. And I look at him as somebody who's on the forefront of leading the mass adoption of blockchain technology and really just bringing equity into our community, right? Making the concept of equity something that's much more attainable. We have none other than Mr. Vernon J, real estate veteran, tech entrepreneur, a real dope brother if y'all never had a chance to meet him, founder of EquityCoin. Vernon, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Man, brothers, listen, man. Ever since Miami, I've been thinking about this moment coming together and chopping it up and just dropping these gems because, I mean, what we're doing with this as far as coming together as a community, and then you mix that with technology, you mix that with ownership, bro, you got a combination for something real special. So I just want to say how proud I am of you guys and how excited and energized I am to be here today.
Hey, man,
thank you,
definitely
my brother.
Appreciate that, brother. It means a lot coming from you. Like I said,
but
what
so
you doing in the
genuine.
space is like super impactful, and like Jalen just said,
the
from the first time
was
we
very
met,
genuine,
very genuine, and like I'm ready to get into it and let the people get more about you. So
let's go.
So just to hop off for our people who don't know you, Vernon, I know you got your start in real estate.
Yeah.
You were in real estate for 18 years
That's
before
correct.
entering
Broker,
into the technology space, correct?
That's right.
So let's talk your real estate journey, son. How'd you find your way into real estate?
So check it. Like I was fortunate enough to go to prep school in Massachusetts for high school. I mean, it's $40,000 a year, scholarship that I got, to go to that school. And what I've learned, I started like asking my classmates and my peers, like, yo, what do your parents do? How are they able to afford $40,000 for high school? Like, how is that possible? And I just saw a theme that was going. It was real estate. Like a lot of people in those positions were not, if they own like a dentist practice or any kind of thing, they always had real estate as one of those wealth building, things in their portfolio. So after that, from high school to college, that summer, instead of working at the movie theater or the supermarket, I got my real estate license. And that was 2005. So if anybody is listening who was in the real estate market in 2005, it was on and popping.
Oh yeah, that's what it was right in the morning.
It was on and popping. So I was in Manhattan doing luxury rentals. So in one summer, I'm pulling in 30-something thousand. And my dad was like, yo, what are you doing? Are you selling drugs? So that's how crazy it was in when I got started. And that's was like the beginning of it. But then 2008 hit, right? And we all know where we are at.
How'd you weather that storm?
So check it. So this is what I had at that moment. It was a moment in 2008 where I had 3 deals on the table. Each one of them fell through. They didn't go through. And it was a moment in my life. I was like, damn, this market is really tough. I got to pivot somehow. So I pivoted into real estate owned assets, and I started managing real estate owned assets because REO, if you guys remember, if you were in the real estate space.
Okay.
Remember
REO, that's like bank owned properties after the foreclosures.
Right.
My first job I had in college was managing that. Like we would do the work orders for the REO property. So that's what you were doing.
I pivoted to management of bank owned assets, right? Because I knew that, okay, it's all about the distress market at this moment.
Who's going to be the owner when the fallout happens?
Who's going to be the owner, and then who's going to actually be able to create capital from this terrible situation, right? The capital is created every day, no matter how much turmoil is happening in the market. You just have to find out where that is, right? So I pivoted to that, and that gave me kind of like the foresight to see like, oh shoot, like buying properties in the hood and buying properties that are dilapidated, that could be fixed up. That's where the major value is. So that was kind of my transition into understanding what asset ownership, asset management means, right? And I, as a real estate professional, if you own assets and you own properties and you're looking to build a portfolio, you got to know everything, bro. You got to know how to sell. You got to know how to manage. You got to know how to talk to your superintendents. You got to know how to write up leases. You got to be like a lawyer. Like all these things have to come together in order for you to be successful, right? So I think for me, I did this whole transition from luxury apartments and selling. Then I went to property management, and then I went to acquisitions. So then I started working with a large portfolio, large family who owned about 1,000 units in Manhattan, and I was their acquisition manager. So I went out and found deals and put the deals together, packaged them, and then, brought them to the finishing table. So that kind of gave me the insight and the knowledge that I needed to acquire assets.
So now you go from sales, management, now acquiring.
Acquisitions, right. And up to this point, I've done a little bit under 200 million in transactions as a real estate professional. So, I mean, that's from coast to coast. That's New York, Dallas. We've done some deals, Houston, we've done deals, California, of course, Florida. So this is real estate. It runs in my veins, bro. Like I dream it. I sleep thinking about it. And it really comes back to my great grandfather, right? The dude came from South Carolina.
McDonald's has entered a Minecraft movie universe, and Grimace, Birdie, and Hamburglar just spawned as new collectibles as part of a Minecraft movie meal with your choice of Big Mac or 10-piece chicken McNuggets with spicy nether flame sauce.
Participate in McDonald's for a limited time. A Minecraft movie only in theater.
In the 1940s, bro, dude came up and to Brooklyn. He moved to Brooklyn with his whole family. And he was doing, we called him Uncle Junk. They called him Uncle Junk because he had a rubbish removal company. And back in those days, like in the 1950s, as a black man, the only kind of businesses you could own was rubbish removal or a barbershop.
At State Farm, we're committed to uplifting Black futures. In collaboration with organizations like 100 Black Men and National Urban League, State Farm provides high school students with the opportunity to learn and apply best practice strategies for saving and investing, all while offering academic support, life skills, and exposure to college access programs to prepare these students for life after high school. Check out 100blackmen.org and nul.org to donate and learn more. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Or things like that, right? So that's kind of like Sanford and Son, right? We look at Sanford and Son. That was a moment in time, bro.
Damn.
That he had a junkyard. That was that wasn't just a TV show. That was a moment in history, right?
I never realized that.
Yeah. So my great grandfather came through, and he started doing jobs like for the mob, really, right? You know what I mean? To be honest with you, in Brooklyn, and he was able to acquire property. And the thing is, we grew up. So in 1953, he bought the first brownstone that our family owned, right? He bought it for $10,000 on a payment plan. On a payment plan. That joint today is worth over 3.2.
Y'all still own it?
We still own it. We still own it. It's still it's one of the crown jewels in our portfolio. So as a family.
Vernon, I just got a property that your grandfather acquired, say sometime in the 60s. 1953 on a payment plan for $10,000 is now worth $3.2
in Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn. You can look it up. There's no properties out there that you could buy for under $2 million. And that's generational wealth. Here's a funny story though, because there's a story about leadership that I want to kind of talk about because and leadership in the craziest ways. So in the 1960s, the family in Carroll Gardens, like it was a very Italian neighborhood, bro. Very Italian. Like to this day, we're still the only black people in the neighborhood.
Damn.
To this day, as far as owning, right? There's renters, but as far as owning, but it came a time when my grandfather had to make a decision if he was going to stay or leave because he was getting a lot of harassment in the neighborhood from his kids, death threats. This was really sick. It was really like no joke.
So he was living here?
When he bought the property,
he was living there.
He was living there for some time, and he had to make a decision. And it's funny, one of the mob bosses in Brooklyn was friends with him, and he went and this is a story he told me. So he went to the guy and he said, told him what's going on. And the guy went to everybody in the neighborhood, said, yo, don't mess with this guy. Don't mess with this family. He's good people. He doesn't mess with anybody. Leave him the F alone. Since that moment, never had any issues.
Wow.
And it's just a little story on leadership.
Relationships
that this is real talk here, guys. This is not, no like, I was just watching the show with, about in Harlem, my homie,
BMF?
Not BMF, but, the Godfather of Harlem.
Okay.
Godfather of Harlem. It's not like, that's a story, but this is real shit. This really happened. So.
That's dope. No,
that's really powerful.
The relationships, and then just when I think about the fact that it's ownership, it says something that we were having a conversation off camera as to why you believe black people should never sell. Because the value appreciation that you can find in real estate by holding on to that asset over time. Now, I did want to talk more about like your real estate journey. So you got to the point where you started doing acquisitions for this other company. When did technology come into the picture?
Oh man, so I've always been a tech, like crazy tech, always in tech. I had my first startup in my early 20s, and it was called Live Open House. And what we did was we transformed storefronts into touchscreens. So if you ever walk by a real estate office, you've seen like pieces of paper in the window, but we actually converted that to a touchscreen. So that window, because the manager of that office or the office owner is paying rent every day, every hour, but it's only being utilized for a certain amount of time. But with the touchscreen, now even after hours, you can connect with you can turn your retail space into a connectivity device. And Ryan Serhant, who's on $1 Million Listing, he was actually our first client. So you can actually Google it, check it out, and see what we did there. I sold the IP just to move on from that, because the hardware became too crazy. And not only that, I learned a major life lesson with that first startup, which is that you never start a company. This is my advice. Nobody has to take it. You don't got to take it. Don't start a company that if you had a big idea, you want to be able to have some sort of wealth for yourself first. You want to be able to have some sort of bedrock for yourself as far as income. Because if you don't, then it can become life or death. And what I mean is you could really get mentally ill by trying to start a company, trying to do a company and not really have the fortitude or the capital to do it. And then you get venture capitalists on board. You take their money. And then if things don't pan out the way that you plan, which 100% of the time it does not, they have so much control over you. So much control. Everybody wants that check, but nobody understands what that check means. What you're giving up, right? So I had a
control,
career
ownership, all that stuff.
All that is so important, and I'm glad I learned that lesson early. And from that moment in my early 20s, I told myself, because I actually had a business partner who was my venture capital partner, and like he just had such a stronghold on me. Like it was crazy because I was counting on him to eat, because this was my business, this was my baby. I was putting everything I had into it, but we still needed it to grow, and I needed capital, and I didn't have any personal wealth. You know what I'm saying? So it was from that moment after I sold that company, I said, you know what? The next one I build, I'm going to have personal wealth already in place, so that when I'm going to VCs, I can talk to them like this.
You don't need them.
I don't need your money, but I'm going to bring you on board because you're going to bring value. We're going to bring value together, not one-sided, right? And yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, bro. And like, I'm glad you opened up this conversation, because that's something that we've been talking about more on the podcast with building a business, right? A lot of times, I know in the midst of the pandemic, the ethos of the area seemed like, oh, jump off the cliff, just go start this business, have the faith, and it's gonna work out. But it's like, without that bedrock, without that economic certainty, you often put yourself in disadvantageous positions.
You're in fight or flight mode.
You're in fight or flight mode every day. And now you're struggling to do what you set out to do, or you created yourself a job that was worse than what you were trying to do, versus like if you have that bedrock and it made that personal wealth. Like I have my savings. I'm not over here wondering how I'm going to pay my rent if this deal doesn't go through.
Right.
Now I can stand in here and look at you in the eye without the sales commission. Like, hey man, I really need this, dog. Like,
exactly.
I'm glad you shared that, because I need more people to understand that we don't have to do the either or. You can build, you can build something while you still secure yourself on the side.
That's a fact. I think it's so important, man. And so just to fast forward a little bit to my career, in 2016, that's when I started to get into blockchain technology heavy, bro. Like one of my guys came to me. He was like, "Yo, you ever heard of XRP, Ripple?" I was like, "Nah, it's 2016.
Yeah,
that joint wasn't on forums. Nobody knew about that Ripple." And then I started to understand like what kind of banks are involved. Oh shoot, they trying to disrupt Swift. Swift, which is
well, that's the international payment network, right? That's what they shut Russia out of whenever
they started attacking. They started attacking Ukraine. They shut Russia.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what. So they're disrupting that. I'm seeing it's real. You know what I mean? It's not just like pie in the sky stuff. So I got into it. Went down the rabbit hole, invested, and I made a lot of money from 2016 to 2019, and then I saw almost all of it disappear because of the downturn, right, of the marketplace. And at that point, I was traveling. I was going to Hong Kong, Dubai, Singapore, like all the different events all across the country for blockchain. And I was learning about so much of the nuances. And what I learned was America's so far behind, bro, when it comes to blockchain adoption. So far, when I was in Dubai, they're actually putting 100% of their financial services on the blockchain by 2025, right? We're not even close to that, not even anywhere close. So it was that point that I got into the blockchain space. And then at that same moment, I started building my own portfolio of properties in Brooklyn. So I started, my investment thesis was very simple. I wanted to invest in properties that were going to have Section 8 tenants, so I can guarantee my cash flow, no matter if there's a pandemic, a recession, no matter what's happening out there, I'm always going to get my check on the 1st and the 15th, right? Even though like a small percentage of it comes from the tenant, but that's fine because these are like golden tickets, bro. Section 8 vouchers. Nobody wants to lose their voucher.
So they're going to be
they're going to make sure they pay their little bit of, the rent to make sure that they keep their voucher.
And that's what our guy Tim explained to us as well. Is like, hey, if your Section 8 tenants aren't doing what they do, report their ass to their the HUD officer, and it will remove their voucher. He stated that a lot of people who do Section 8, they're too afraid or they don't speak to their HUD officers and get the tenants in line.
Right. And that's important. You got to do your due diligence too. You got to do heavy due diligence on the front end for everybody who comes in, because you get like 30 applications, per apartment for Section 8. It's crazy.
You can't just take everybody.
You can't just take first come, first serve in that situation, because you have to check the references. You got to do your thing. You got to do your due diligence in order for you to alleviate headaches in the future, right? So that's important. And then, after acquiring a property, after having some tenants, after getting into blockchain technology, I started thinking about, okay, what are some like key issues that I've been seeing in the real estate market for this last decade plus that I've been in it, and it's two major things that I've seen.
Attention business owners and high-earning individuals. Take control of your finances with the tailored tax planning services of Magnolia Tax Services. Their team of experts specialize in maximizing savings for individuals and businesses by utilizing the latest tax laws and strategies. From complex business structures to high net worth individuals, they'll develop a customized plan to minimize your tax liability and increase your bottom line. On average, they save their clients $17,500. Don't leave any of your money on the table. Contact our partners at Magnolia Tax Services today for a consultation and start planning for a financially secure future. Go to blackwealthrenaissance.com/taxes or click the link below.
Wendy's 2 for $6 lets you mix and match some of our best items, like Dave Single with a 10-piece crispy nugs, medium strawberry lemonade with a spicy chicken sandwich, spicy chicken with a Dave Single with a strawberry lemonade, if you're into that. Chicken Sam, crispy nugs, strawberry lemonade, Dave's, nugs, Sam. Whew. Pick what you want at a price you want. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's 2 for $6.
For a limited time, price and participation may vary at U.S. Wendy's. On the card only. Single item at regular price.
One is that when it comes to communities of color, there's such a small percentage of families or organizations that own the majority of assets, right? They own the majority of assets, and only a very small percentage of actual individuals own property in the neighborhood. I think that's fundamentally wrong. Fundamentally.
And I remember at the conference, you mentioned something that was a very stark reality for me. You said that the average homeowner, right? We start talking about wealth in our community. The net worth of the average homeowner is 40 times that.
That's right.
Of the renter. And if our communities, we don't own nothing, we're renters in these communities. What does that do to our worth as a community, our assets, and our ability to take care of ourselves financially?
That's exactly, and that goes back to our thought of we should always own and never sell, right? Why should we ever sell when we can use our equity to acquire more? You could just keep doing that snowball effect until the day you croak. I'm gonna be on my deathbed, bros, signing leases, signing deeds, bro. I swear, because I know that everything I do in this life is gonna help my wife when I'm gone. It's gonna help my children. It's gonna help my nephews. And my niece is gonna help my family, right? So if I could do that, then I'm good with my life, right? And the second thing that I've learned in the last decade plus is that when it comes to acquiring affordable housing properties, I try to get some of my wealthy family offices to acquire, affordable housing projects, right? Properties. It's exponentially harder to get deals to pencil with the bank when it comes to affordable housing projects. Really.
Why is that?
It's because banks are there for money. They're there to make money. They're not really there to help people. That's not what they're there for. And we got to keep it funky.
That's not their target.
That's not their target. That's not what they do. They have these nonprofit, but it's all for show. It's the real nitty gritty or the real meat of what they do is to create capital. Right?
That's why they take your deposits, pay you 1%, and then loan them out to people at 10, 15, and 20%.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like we can't rely on the banks and the government to house our people. We cannot rely on them. We have to be able to galvanize each other and be able to work together, own assets together in order to house people. I'll give you another quick story. I had in one of my properties, we have a retail space. And I always make sure that we get people that are on the come up in the retail space. And our last tenant that came in, like she applied for like 15 different places, right? For her beauty salon. And none of the people who she went to as far as landlords looked like her. She's a black woman, young black woman, late 20s, right? But she came to me, I saw something in her eye. I saw she was passionate about what she wanted to do. Her credit wasn't great, which is why none of the other people took the chance on her. But she had cash in the bank. She's working. I'm gonna give you a shot. Yo, bro, she's been killing it, bro, killing it for the last 2 years. And the reason why I say that is because most people, they just need a chance, bro. They just need an opportunity. And if nobody looks like them, nobody's gonna give them the opportunity. That's the real deal talk right there. If we are able to own assets, if we own it, we can make our decisions on the basis of our ownership, right? So those are the two things that I've learned.
Now I'll follow you because whenever it's somebody in our shoes, right? Because I think about it with the situation with appraisers, with black appraisers, right? There's a massive shortage of black appraisers, and we've seen on multiple occasions now homes be devalued. I think most recent story I heard was from
$500,000,
like 2020 pandemic area. A home, I think it was in California, the family's house was devalued by almost $500,000 because they had a white appraiser come through.
Yeah.
They looked at the home, they seen the pictures of the family and all that. They wrote it at $800,000. Family thought it was low. They did the same thing where they took all this stuff down and made it look like it wasn't for them. It didn't belong to us. Got an appraiser that was a white appraiser to come through this house. They had their white neighbor pretend to be the person who owned it. Value comes in at $1.3 million, right? It's like there's an inherent bias there that sometimes that we don't want to acknowledge, but it definitely affects our opportunities to create wealth and the actual wealth that we own. So it's like the fact that what you're saying, just to tie it all back in, is like the fact that you are in a position of ownership gives you the opportunity to create that opportunity for somebody else who may not be in the ideal situation. So they're not getting discriminated against or losing out on a chance to continue to build a business.
Look, guys, it wasn't too long ago that there were deed restrictions on properties. No blacks allowed. Deed restrictions.
So I can't even own it.
I can't own it if I have $1,000,000, gajillion dollars. I cannot own it. That gets me so fired up about ownership, because if it like 50 years ago, I wouldn't be able to own the assets that I own. So why the hell would I sell? You know what I'm saying? If I didn't even have the opportunity just decades ago.
The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Virginia. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Bro,
why would I not seize
I gotta
it?
go ham.
Every chance.
Every chance I get, every ounce of breath I take, I gotta, being on this podcast with you guys, I gotta put this breath and make it so that we own more. Mm-hmm. Fuck everything else. The only way that we as a people are gonna elevate is through ownership of assets. Mm-hmm. Everything else is noise. I'm getting a little
I feel it.
I just feel real strong about it, man. And that's the core. That's my why of what I do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? Blockchain is the vehicle in which, you could do it similar to, we can kind of go into the blockchain stuff right now, but similar to like the internet. Let's just say the internet right now, right? If there's Amazon owns such a nice chunk of the internet, right?
I think it's like 75% is built on AWS, something
crazy, right? So you wouldn't call the internet that Amazon thing, right? You wouldn't say, oh, the internet. If I say the internet, you say, oh, that Amazon thing.
Yeah, nah.
You wouldn't say that, right? So let's take blockchain technology, right? When I say blockchain, people say, oh, that Bitcoin thing.
That's just one aspect.
That's just one aspect.
It may be a large aspect.
It could be a large aspect, yeah. But it's minuscule compared to the big picture, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like how I try to explain blockchain to people, because they immediately say, "Oh, Bitcoin is down." I'm like, "Bro, you're not even.
You think it's small,
there, right?
You need to be thinking big, bitch. Think big.
Bitcoin just one piece of the infrastructure. Blockchain is the actual infrastructures, the roads, the highways, the light poles, the plumbing, all of that. That's what blockchain is.
Yes.
So I want to ask, now we kind of on the conversation of blockchain, right? With EquityCoin. Mm-hmm. So EquityCoin is the fusion of your tech background and your real estate background. How is EquityCoin using blockchain technology to address issues with affordable housing?
Before we even get in that, can you just explain what EquityCoin is?
Oh, for sure. So again, I started buying my assets in 2017, and then the last tenant, well, one of the last tenants that we brought in, she was coming from a shelter, and this is 2020. She was coming from a shelter, and when we handed her the keys, we use this program called City FEPS, which takes families from shelters and partners them with landlords like me, and they pay for 5 years of rent 5 years of rent guaranteed, 1 year of rent up front.
Really?
Like they really hook it up. They really hook it up for the landlord.
And you said it's called FEPS.
It's called City FEPS. City FEPS in New York. They have it in New York. But when I handed her the keys, like she broke down in the most grateful tears that I've never witnessed in my life. Somebody had so much like gratefulness towards me, and at that moment, I never felt more fulfilled. This is my purpose. I'm like, yo, if I could do this 1,000 times over, I fulfill my purpose. I'm good, right? So I thought about, okay, how can I scale this? I got the knowledge. my best friend is a cryptographer, and he's been my best friend for 10 years. So he came on board as our CTO for EquityCoin. So we have the technical know-how, right? So how can I exponentially grow not only our portfolio of assets and be able to have community members own fractions of the assets? Should we do that? Oh,
you good.
All right. Own fractions of the assets, or, that was the key. So from that moment, I called my friend, from that moment where I housed the woman coming from the shelter, called my homie, Akil Ash, who actually helped Venmo and PayPal build out their blockchain systems, right? So gave him a call. I said, yo, I got this idea for this thing called EquityCoin. What did you think? He said, yo, I think we could do it. And we sat down, we started to think about the logistics of, as far as like adhering to SEC rules and regulations, FINRA, SIPC. We want to do this right. We're going to do this the right way, because what I saw in 2020, I saw a regulation coming. Right, I've been in the market. I've been in the blockchain space heavy since 2016. So I've seen the ebbs and flows, right? And when the market starts to get hot, something's about to pop. As far as like, FTX happened, for example, right?
Fiasco. 3 Arrows Capital.
Fiasco. So when those things happen, regulation starts to pile in more. And when regulation starts to pile in more, you have to whoever's in the position. It's like musical chairs. Whoever's in the position who did the background work to be compliant is going to win at the end of the day. So that's when in 2020, I said, we could have came out with a token that was backed by nothing. That was just this token that, had this idea and blah, blah, blah.
You put up 100,000 shares of it.
And put up 1 million shares or whatever. But I said, no. This has to be backed by real tangible assets, real income. Because at the end of the day, if anything were to happen, we always have assets that will cover everybody's investment. And that's it. That's a key component to building something that's real.
That's how you make sure you're not in the rug pool.
That's exactly right. And we're not here it's no quick money. This is forever shit, right? I want to do this forever, bros. So with that mindset, I don't need to scratch and scramble for cash, because we know that this is going to be a long-term process. So essentially, EquityCoin is a representation of assets in our portfolio, the token itself. And as a token holder, you get dividends sent directly to your bank account or to your EquityCoin wallet in the form of Ethereum, or it could be EquityCoin, or it could be a stable token like DAI, DAI. So this is a way to take an asset, fractionalize it, have people own pieces of it so that they can not only be able to build their wealth, but have a community that they can tap into. Because right now we have 72 token holders right now, 72 investors token holders. And I mean, we've got judges, bro. We've got, big time entrepreneurs, politicians, all in this group, mortgage professionals.
People who are making decisions that make things move.
That's right. So anybody in the group, not only are you investing and getting income and have ownership, but now you could tap into the community and be able to own assets by yourself. Because it's not only about us owning together, it's about us owning as individuals as well. And if we could help each other do that, then I think we on the good path. But the idea behind EquityCoin was to create a test case scenario. EquityCoin is a test case of the tokenization of real assets. And the whole idea was to create this infrastructure so that we can white label it and allow any community developer across the country to be able to create their own token, create their own EquityCoin.
So from what I'm hearing, EquityCoin is basically you doing a crowdfund on the blockchain.
Boom. Boom. I mean, you've got a few things that have happened that has brought us to this point. You got 2012 with the Jobs Act. Jobs Act of Obama. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that, because like our thing is all about crowdfunding. It's about giving access to non-accredited investors, people who don't make $200,000 a year, right, or have $1 million in net worth, right? That's it's only 7% of the country that are in that field. So you mean to tell me the government has set it up so that only 7% of America can take part in investments.
And really, truly, generational wealth returns.
That prior to 2012, that's what the scenario was. After 2012, it opened up the floodgates, and we're new, bro. We're at the very beginning. So you had 2012 that happened. Then you had the SEC start the crowdfunding, regulation crowdfunding. And then in 2021, I think it was March or May, they increased the amount that you can raise from 1.0.
It was like $1,200 a person or so. It wasn't a lot, right?
It wasn't a lot. You could raise up to $1 million. It was about $1 million. Now they raised it to $5 million that you can raise. So now that's real. That's capital, right? $1 million is you could do a little something. $5 million. Okay, now we're talking. We can do something. So these are the sequence of events that have allowed us to even exist as EquityCoin, right? Our next thing is a system called Equity Share. And I think I just alluded to it earlier. It's the white label version of what we're doing. So let's say, Jay, you're a community developer in Dallas, right? And you're saying, yo, I got an asset, I got a 5-unit asset, but I have this, I got the knowledge, I got everything I need. I just need capital and I just need to grow. So, and I have a community of people that are ready, willing, and able to help me grow. But what infrastructure can I use for that? That's where Equity Share comes into play, because we can, number one, allow you to raise capital through our crowdfunding portal, through the Equity Share crowdfunding portal. After the crowdfunding portal is done, after you raise the capital, you can tokenize those shares on the blockchain of your company or of the asset. You can tokenize those shares. After that, now the token connects all of the investors, right? So it's not, most of these crowdfunding sites, what really irks me, and which is why we're doing what we're about to do, is that when you crowdfund, after you raise the capital, the crowdfunding company kind of wipes their hand clean of you, and it's like,
now it's just you and the person you invested in.
You and the people who invested, and the people who invested are probably feeling like out of the loop, because, okay, where's the community, right? Crowdfunding has to be accompanied with community. If it's not, you're gonna have people complaining, oh, I don't know what's going on with my investment. I didn't get any, that's why with EquityCoin and our EquityCoin token holders, we have a beautiful community of people that come together digitally, physically. We have something called Equity House. It's an event series that we do specifically with EquityCoin token holders. We did it at Art Basel in Miami. In Miami, we did it in Brooklyn, New York, at one of my properties in Brooklyn. So it's, I think for us with Equity Share, we're going to give community developers the tools to raise capital, to tokenize, and to create value in their communities, and make sure that the community
is actually able to benefit. Ooh, that's hard, man.
So I want to peel back some layers on this.
Okay, I got questions with this too. So like with EquityCoin, right? We established that this is basically a way that you can go ahead and allow small dollar investors to start crowdfunding, and it's built on the blockchain instead of through another website, right? Now, just to all the people listening, this is something that you recently shared with us. This is going to be licensed and regulated through the same financial entity, FINRA, that regulates investments.
And you're already regulated by the SEC as well.
That's right. We're regulated by the SEC, and we literally 3 days ago, we just got our FINRA credentials. And this is something we've been waiting. We've been waiting for a while for this. So I'm not going to understate how much this means to the company and to, I think, the industry as a whole, because this gives us the credibility that we need on the financial side and the regulation side in order to facilitate our game plan. And now it's off to the races. And we already have community developers across the nation that are ready, willing, and able to raise capital, tokenize, and do what they need to do in order to get them more.
So that's the part I kind of want to peel back, right?
Yeah.
So the raising capital part, let's just put it into an example. Like you said, I'm a developer out here in Dallas, and I say, okay, I want to raise $5 million. I want to raise the max. So I come to Equity Share, and I say, okay, hey, let's set up this account. So I raise the $5 million. That's the raising part. how does the tokenized part work? Do I have to buy the actual asset and then that's where I'm issuing out the token? How does that work? And can you break it down to the average person who might be listening?
For sure. So buying a company, let's say, for example, you create a company and you create a company with a Delaware corporation for 10,000 shares in the company. Delaware actually has a rubric. They have a set of rules and regulations that you can use to tokenize your shares on the blockchain. Really. So, and it's called the Delaware Blockchain Initiative.
So when it's like that, is it like one share to one token?
That's exactly right. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. The reason why you tokenize is because in a traditional sense, if you own shares, we're still in paper form, bro. We still use paper shares.
Man, I was just reading a fucking book. I can't remember the book, but it was a paper share, and the guy, what the hell is it? Because he scammed a lot of people. I think it was actually the Ponzi, the Charles Ponzi.
Charles Ponzi, yeah,
so
that
yeah,
was a bad
Charles
man,
Ponzi.
son.
What he did was he had a company.
Ponzi scheme
It was either Charles Ponzi or another.
That fool was crazy. It's a bad man.
It's Charles Ponzi or another guy. It's this other Asian guy, I think it is actually. But he only had one share of the company, and he was the sole owner.
Right.
But like you're stating, it wasn't digitized, so they couldn't track the owner of it because it was paper share.
How many you could give papers out to anybody, right? And that's why it's so comical that this, like, unless you're on the NASDAQ, the Dow, the Russell 2000, or one of those exchanges, then you could be digitized.
Yeah, if you're
one of those companies,
but you're like a regular company, you're basically just what you have registered with the state.
That's
with your Secretary of State.
Right. So in order to digitize for community developers, people that aren't on the Russell 2000, I'm not on the NASDAQ, bro. Like, my business isn't worth 200 mil, it's worth $1 million, right? You're not getting on the NASDAQ with that. So this allows normal people, everyday community developers, to be able to digitize their shares so that you, as an investor of that company, now you have the ability to exchange value from that shares without needing a lawyer, without needing to get, if you invest in a regular company, like with paper shares, if I want to sell my shares,
you got to go to that operating agreement, and you got buy, sell agreements, all that.
You got to go through all of this. On the blockchain, the transfer of the token operates as a transfer of the shares, because in the smart contract, and we kind of like going into the weeds a little bit, but every token that's out there is powered by a smart contract.
So are these tokens, so like just again, peeling back for the people, those are essentially the same thing as NFTs, right? But NFTs with utility.
It's the same as the actual share,
It's the same as a share. It's the same as a share of a company.
So like an NFT, the whole, whenever
it's non-fungible.
It's a token.
But I think it is actually, it's a fungible token because it's a share of.
Fungible means it's physical.
Is that I thought it means that the value is, so I thought non-fungible tokens, it means that the value of each token is different. It's not going to all be the same. But from what I'm hearing with EquityCoin,
they can exchange.
Let's say once again I raised $5 million. I raised $5 million, right? And now I tokenize it. I say, okay, I'm gonna do 100,000 tokens, and I'm going to divide that 5 million by 100,000 tokens, and whatever that one share, whatever that one share is worth that. But an NFT non-fungible token,
have $100,000 token.
Yes, but the NFT, a non-fungible token, that's saying I got 10,000 board apes.
They're unique.
Yes,
I got
the
you.
value is unique.
So not the same, but same concept of it's on the blockchain and it tracks your ownership, but now you have the members of the community, they own these tokens that represent their share of ownership in the actual project. So like with EquityCoin, is it like different tokens for each project? Is that how it works?
So how we're doing it is a real estate investment trust model.
Okay.
Right.
So it's kind of like a REIT.
It's a REIT, right? REIT's on the blockchain. We're not a REIT yet because we haven't crossed the 100 investor threshold. We hope to, cross that in the next month.
Yeah, you already.
I mean, we're there, but we're really picky. We're really picky about who can invest.
That makes sense.
This is not for we're not just out here, everybody own equity. We want to do it strategically because you've seen in the marketplace where you let everybody invest, it's going to come back to bite you, right?
Because some people don't understand the principles of it, and they think that they can take their last $500, put it into this, and it's going to be $5,000 tomorrow. Like them scammers be telling y'all in y'all DMs, stop responding to them people. That's not me.
We're not going to do this again. We're not going to do this again, damn it.
I'm just saying. But like people will do that, and then you can't let everybody just hop onto those types of investments. But that's, I'm sure.
Well, especially in the beginning, because I don't want anybody to invest who hasn't been able to have a conversation with me, hasn't been able to truly understand what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, then it's going to come back and you say, oh, I didn't understand. I didn't really know what I was. Oh, so you didn't understand what you were investing in. I want you to make sure that you know the ins and outs. Any questions that you have, I want to make sure that we answer it before you invest, right? Before you come on board.
Are you a small business owner looking to grow and expand your operations? Are you tired of all the gurus promising getting rich quick and then offering no results? At Black Wealth Renaissance, we understand the unique challenges business owners face in securing funding, and that's why we're excited to offer comprehensive funding solutions in partnership with Leverage Capital. With Leverage Capital, we've given you access to the Business Credit Builder, which is a powerful software that walks you through the process step by step of how to build business credit and guarantees you will secure the funding you need to grow and expand your business. Visit blackwealthrenaissance.com/funding today and get started on building your business credit and securing the funding you need to grow and expand your business to the next level. Again, that's blackwealthrenaissance.com/funding.
And I think like what we're seeing right now with this emergence of crowdfunding, blockchain, we're seeing the emergence of the sharing equity economy. And this is actually
let's talk about this.
Let's talk about that for it, because this is a big piece of it. This is one of our major trademarks, the sharing equity economy. And I think sharing equity economy 1.0 was with Uber, Airbnb, Turo.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
You know,
the gig economy.
The gig economy, right?
They provide the platform. You provide the service, the fulfillment.
Right. So, but I even think about like the equity part that he's talking about, the sharing equity, is the equity pulling out your vehicle, right? Before Uber and Turo, a vehicle was solely considered a liability. But Uber and Turo allowed you to tap into the equity that was in your vehicle, allowing you to start making money from it.
Right.
So I get what you're saying. Even like the park your RV at my house type, tapping into that, and then Airbnb allowing you to actually extract equity by allowing people to stay in one room and shit like that.
So these companies, Uber, Airbnb, they went up against mafia-driven organizations globally.
Hotels.
Globally, bro. I mean, you got countries that were against Uber, that didn't want them in, and it's still fighting them to this day, or Airbnb for that matter. And the reason is because you're disrupting monopolies. Mm-hmm. When you're disrupting monopolies, you're poking the bear. And I feel like the only way, if you're going to create something that's really going to be meaningful, you got to poke bears, bro. And I think with what sharing equity economy 2.0 is with the emergence of crowdfunding and blockchain, where banks are going to start to get disrupted. Because now communities are coming together saying, yo, we got 1,000 people in this community. We could, if we put $100 each together, we could buy this building instead of getting a 30-year mortgage. We can own that without interest, without the 2 times the value of the property interest that you have to pay with a 30-year mortgage. So people are starting to wake up and see that these tools are available. And I think with equity share, it's going to kind of push the needle forward, where now community developers around the country are going to start to wake up and say, yo, my entire capital stack doesn't need to be with a bank. I could, even if it's 20% of the value of the capital that I need to acquire this building comes from the community, that's still 20% we've taken away from the banks. You know what I'm saying? Like we've raised almost a little bit over 250,000 as EquityCoin. That went 90% went to the real estate, 10% went to build up our equity share portal. We could have went to the bank for that, but we went to the community.
I'm glad you brought that up because that made me think of another question with EquityCoin. So with that, if somebody were to try to exchange their token or cash out, how does that process work? Do y'all hold money for liquidity? Is that how does that part work?
So they work together. So if an investor wants to sell, you can buy from another investor who's in the group, right? You have this exchange platform, which is Equity Share, that allows you to exchange with current token holders.
Gotcha.
Or if you have somebody who is looking to become an EquityCoin holder, you can bring them to the table and they can buy your tokens out, right? So you're creating this community of exchange where you don't need to have a lawyer. I don't need to hire a lawyer because the value is exchanged through the blockchain.
Gotcha.
And it's based on a real asset.
Based on a real asset.
Can track what it's worth.
Right, exactly.
This is me. This is my portion of this building. I own 5% of the portion of Equity Share. I can sell you my 5%. And that is no need for the actual, like a liquidity pool, like on these crypto tokens, because at the end of the day, the value of the asset isn't derived from what we think it's worth.
Right.
And what the next person will buy it for is derived from what the asset generates.
That's right.
I'm following.
That's right.
That's good. That's good. I kind of want to pivot. I know we're coming up on time, but it's a few more things that I definitely want to get into. And one of the things that we talked about was the last name situation, right? Your last name is now legally just J, right? And I remember I was like, yo, what's up with that? Like, why'd you do it? And whenever you gave me a reason, I was blown away. I was like, damn, dog, it's really smart. So can you give us the background story to how you came on that epiphany and then how life has been since moving forward?
Well, I just want to say, like, it wasn't a small thing to change my name. Meaning, it was something I pondered on, thought about really deeply because I'm a junior, right?
I was like, how did your family react to that?
My pops is my hero. You feel me? Like, he's taught me everything I know about business, everything I know about integrity. You know, so his name, the name means like he means a lot to me. So, and then my family means a lot to me. But then, you know, the more I learn about history, the more I learn about what happened to our people in this country, the less value that last name gave me, right? And I felt like an imposter with that last name. I felt like it wasn't me, you know. And I'm sure this is probably, you know, what Malcolm X felt, or, you know, these other guys back in the day, but. A few times people came up to me and we were talking about the name Jones, and they make a joke out of it. Is it a slave or is it the slave holder? Right? Because Jones is one of those names that
That's a lot of Black Joneses.
For sure came from slavery, slavery times.
Way
right?
too many Black Joneses for it not to be.
right. So I think it was important for me to be able to have an identity that is my own, that I know for a fact that no slaveholder gave this name to me, right? It's something I created. It's really important part of my identity, you know?
I appreciate
I know you kind of got
because it's not similar in a sense, but it made me understand where he was coming from, because like where I'm from, Southern Louisiana, my name's David Bellard, right? Grow up in rural country town. I'm a junior as well. My dad's David Bellard Sr. Up the street and around the corner from us, there's a white man named David Bellard, right? So that slave or slave owner joke, it's not really a joke,
right?
Because it's like we see them and they talk like, "Oh yeah, man, we must be cousins," and it's like, bitch, you know we weren't cousins.
If we is cousins, because your grandpa fucked my grandma,
and it wasn't consensual, you mother. So no, I really do understand that, and whenever I first met you, it's something that I brought. Like, it kind of made me think of is like, you know, that last name, we always say we hustling and working for our last name.
Yeah.
But
whose last name
is? Whose last name is?
Whose last name? Damn, that's deep. That's
It's
deep.
like,
That's
what
deep,
legacy
bro.
are you building?
That's deep.
Whose legacy are you building?
Ooh, I got not
Y'all niggas popped in this bitch. Sheesh.
But no, like I love that you were able to you took that step to identifying it yourself to help build your legacy for yourself, right? Because the other piece I think of it, I'm a junior as well. I want to talk to you more about how your family took it, because I think that's something that somebody that may consider it like wanting to do that want to understand how that process worked for you.
Well, they make fun of me. You know what I'm saying? They make fun. Oh, you the J. You're not a part of the family. They make fun.
Oh, we taking family pictures. Niggas stand over there.
I think at the end of the day, they understand and they value what I'm bringing.
Yeah.
Right. They value it because I'm thinking outside. I'm thinking different. And it's just like we're just so conditioned, bro, as a society to accept what's given to us and not be able to make changes. We have to be able to own ourselves, and if we need to make a change, we got to make a change, no matter what.
That's deep. That's deep, dog.
Man, it's some bullshit though.
It is
Cut off my damn question. I want to know about how EquityCoin and blockchain was going to revolutionize the dang.
Well, nigga, ask the question.
All right,
damn
man.
it. Shit.
So, Vernon, I wanted to ask you with EquityCoin, because one of the things I know you mentioned you're working with is affordable housing.
Yep.
How is applying blockchain technology to that assisting in solving some of the problems with affordable housing? Because if I'm not mistaken, we're like still in an affordable housing shortage right now.
Listen, man. Tonight, there's 500,000 people sleeping on the streets in America. Tonight, every day, right? I mean, we have not only that, we have a shortage of 7 million affordable apartments in the country. So this is, even though it's an epidemic, there's a lot of opportunity as well, right? So just like with the internet, just like with blockchain, you can apply it to any type of thing. You can apply the internet to do nefarious things. You can apply the internet to raise capital for, children that are, sleeping on the streets. So you can use the technology in any avenue that you please. For me, I feel like the best way to use this technology is to house people who are coming from shelters, house families who are not sure where their next meal is going to come from, and they need a place to live. We seem to think that like mental health, just comes out of nowhere, but in our communities, a lot of our mental health issues comes from not having adequate, basics. Not having a home, living in a shelter. Imagine you're a kid. The last tenant that we brought in, she had a 10-year-old son. Imagine that 10-year-old son living in a shelter for years, going to elementary, junior high school, college, and high school, and dealing with that. So now we've provided him and his mom with a nice quality place to live. So now that they can think about the future. So again, you can apply this shit any type of way you want to apply it. I'm applying it to help our people, and to at the same time, we're gonna own assets together, and we're gonna do this, for forever. You feel me?
I love it. Yeah. I love it, my brother. We're gonna pivot into our last questions. Yeah. I'm gonna let David get off his last question.
All right. So my final question, my favorite question, is what are you currently doing with your money to ensure your wealth?
Damn, that's a good one. Damn, well,
you get better.
Listen.
He come with the Tommy gun on him.
I'm famous for this, and I think anybody who's trying to do anything incredible, is famous for it. I go all in, bro. So last month, December 6th, we just closed on a 5-unit in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. All in. When in 2017, when we bought our 4-unit in Brooklyn, we bought it for $650 at the time. Right now, we just got it appraised. It's appraising for $1.2 million in 5 years, like 5-6 years, right? So I went all in.
So when you're saying
when I say all in, I mean
you purchased it cash.
Meaning all in. I'm putting everything I got into it, right? And even though because I the only thing that I feel comfortable putting everything I got into is real estate, because I know that shit's coming back to me. That's coming back to me in rent. Putting everything I got into creating a company is a little different.
That's a bigger risk.
That's a much bigger risk, right?
People gonna pay for housing regardless.
People gonna pay for housing.
Need.
Yo, you always gonna have. So when it comes to your question, what have I done? I emptied my bank account. Emptied my bank account last month in order to do that, right? And we're gonna do a cash out refinance in the next few months. So I'm gonna have all that cash come back.
I appreciate you. That's again, these are the risks that people talk about with entrepreneurship that people don't conceptualize. So to secure your wealth, you're willing to take those risks. Because the average person, the definition of entrepreneur is a person who's willing to take greater than normal risk for a greater than normal reward. And it's because you have the track record and you know what you're doing with it, you're comfortable with taking those risks.
And listen, risk is like a muscle. You have to keep training it. You have to keep training it, because if you don't exercise risk or exercise the ability to take risk, we will remain in a state of mediocrity. If we don't exercise risk, we will always remain in a state of mediocrity. And somebody will always be telling us how to live our life, when to come to work, when to go home, when to take vacation, or when to take your kids to their soccer practice, their football games. I want to be there for all my kids' games. Nobody's going to tell me, oh, you got to come in an office, X that. It's not happening. I'm there. I'm there all the time. And really, that's the value of being an entrepreneur. People think the value is, having a lot of money. No. The value is owning your time. So you can spend time with your wife, spend time with your kids, have this holistic. What's the sense of having bread, having money, if you can't see yourself fulfilled?
That's a fact.
You feel me?
I literally, Shannon Sharp just said that, and I think that was a real powerful moment. Just in terms of people seeing that again, because it's people see Shannon Sharp, he on TV, he doing all these things, oh man, you great. And his vulnerability, he said, I made all this money, I did all these things, but who do I have to spend it with? That time real. Aspect, it's real. It's not about the money, it's about the time and those relationships. Right. But I'm gonna let you unload your Beretta.
So before that, because this is about to go off,
I think he already muted it.
Cool. Are you frugal or are you a flexer?
Oh, frugal as AF. Frugal AF. Frugal AF. My wife hates it, bro. But I gave her this analogy last week, and she was kind of upset about it, but I'm gonna say it here. So I watch a lot of slave movies, man, just because it gives me.
I was I can't do it no more, man.
Nah, I watch it.
My heart be like trauma,
bro. It makes me feel like, yo, whatever I'm complaining about is bullshit compared to what these people had to deal with to get freedom. So I gave her this analogy. I said, yo, imagine you're back in slavery times, right? And you had two slaves. You had one slave who was saving every single penny, any kind of thing that he could get in order to get his freedom. He's on the path. In his mind, I'm getting freedom no matter what.
I'm not a slave.
I'm not a slave. I got to get my freedom. So every single dollar I get, every single chance I get to stack away, I'm going to stack away. Then you have another slave who is like, you know what? I'm good. I'm just going to stick it out for the rest of my life. I'm just going to be here. This is my life. I'm accepting it. So when I get a little bit of something, I'm going to splurge a little bit. I'm going to do a little something, right? The little bit that I get, I'm going to splurge.
To get a relief from reality.
10 years go by, the person who's saying, you know what, I want my freedom so fucking bad that I'm willing to put everything I got into it. That's how I feel, right? And I try to tell that to the wife, because I don't want to be that other slave that's like spending when they get a little bit, and then after 10 years you look back and you're still in the same fucking spot, right? And I hate to, you don't want to be talking about slaves, but
you don't want to get labeled like Kanye.
Right. But I think it's important. It's important that we talk about this, because in a Jewish community, like my Jewish brothers and sisters, like they constantly talking about the Holocaust, constantly. They teach their kids young, because in their mind, by knowing about the Holocaust, you got to say this will never happen again. Right?
And so these are the steps
to make sure that this never happens again. Right? So for us, we need to have that same kind of mentality. Say, yo, let's look back on that. Let's really analyze that, because this shit ain't happening again, bro.
That's good. My second one is, what are you doing to preserve your wealth for your family once you're gone?
That's a good question. So I actually shout out to Donald Wong, who's actually one of the board members at Equity Platforms, Inc., EquityCoin's parent company. He's like our guy when it comes to wealth planning. And I just got set up a meeting with him for life insurance. Like this is one of the things that I just got married a few months ago, you know, thinking about kids now. And I want to start putting those pieces together. What if tomorrow, you know, tomorrow's my day, who knows, whatever. But I want to make sure, and I can feel comfortable going to sleep at night, knowing that if that day does come, my family are taken care of. So I think that's one thing and it's cheap, bro. Like $40 a month.
Yeah.
You know, like, come on. We spend that on
like what are we talking about?
What are we talking about here? So it's crazy to kind of think about how people don't do that. But I think that's kind of like life. Shit is easy. It's just that either you do it or you don't.
That's a fact.
You know?
That's a fact.
It is a fact.
And that my last question is always, do you have life insurance?
Oh, that's the
working on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a bet.
Exactly.
That's a bet. Well, Vernon, appreciate you for coming, my brother. Please let our guests know where can they follow you, where can they tap in.
If they want to invest in EquityCoin,
what do they have to do?
How can they do that?
Word. Well, right now, EquityCoin is a private offering. Right now, so you know it's private. You can't just
if they want to apply to invest in EquityCoin.
Well, you could reach out. You could go to equitycoin.org and then go to the bottom and request the white paper. You'll get the white paper. You can read up on it. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. You can go to at VPeso on Instagram, so at VPESO, or that's probably the best way to reach out to me. EquityCoin.org is the website. You can just give EquityCoin a Google. Just Google us, and you're gonna see all the stuff that we on, and that'll give you a good sense of like where we've gone and where we're headed.
I love it. I love it. Once again, my brother, thank you so much for coming through, kicking it with us, giving us this value. I appreciate what you're doing for the community, your passion. I love it. And once again, appreciate you for always being genuine since the beginning, my brother.
Man.
Before we wrap up, we're going to get into some house cleaning. So I want to say, everybody, please leave us that 5-star rating in the review. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that notification bell. Make sure you like and subscribe. Tap into our previous content if you're on YouTube or the podcast platforms. Go through some of that older stuff. It's some value in there. What you got, David?
Man, we got pressure all through the catalog. That's all I got to say on that part. Now, we may have an event coming up pretty soon. We're going to be doing things pretty frequently. Houston, Dallas. End of this year, we're going to be in Atlanta for the Black Men Summit. So if you want to stay tapped in and you want to know what we have going on when we come into your city, I need you to text the word events to 337-455-7778. Again, that's events to 337-455-7778. Join our list and we'll keep you up to date and abreast of everything that Black Wealth Renaissance got going on. Outside of that, if you're trying to get funding and you small business owner, you're scaling your business, trying to get funding, tap in with our partners here at the Business Credit Suite. Link gonna be to that in the show notes. And if you're trying to get your taxes done, need some assistance, we also have partners at a tax firm.
Yep.
Link in the show notes, or you can go to blackwealthrenaissance.com/taxes. And for the funding, blackwealthrenaissance.com/funding. But outside of that, that's really it, man. Until next time, this is Black Wealth Renaissance
signing out. Peace.